I'd like to call the Duval Committee of the Whole workshop for July 7th, 2026 to order at 5:32 p.m. We have a couple of council members that may be arriving late, but we've got quorum. So not seeing anyone in the audience. I don't know if we have folks online. So we'll start with the review of the regular meeting agenda. Any concerns, comments, or changes requested? Seeing none. We have two items of discussion this evening. The first one being a community workshop on the right-of-way signage. And that will be kicked off with Cynthia McNabb, the city administrator, and Bill Beatty, the director of economic and community development.
So we have, as part of our workshop, some posters at the front to talk about with anyone who's interested from the public about some of the sign code proposals that would pertain more to real estate signs and those sort of temporary signs. As compared to the focus discussion that we had 2 weeks ago with nonprofit. Shall we migrate?
Yes, we have received a couple comments, which we have forwarded to city council as well. And so those have been sent on the topic for tonight. But yes, we'll take the same kind of format and strategy that we did at the last meeting, go up in front, any member of the public can ask questions of Dr. Beatty, myself, look at the materials, just interact with council members and the mayor, and we'll give it kind of depending on the interest level and the folks that come about half an hour for the discussion.
And we also had some public comment in person from prior council meetings, the Real Estate Association also.
Yes.
Well, that sounds good. All right, I'm gonna, that was a great, sorry, we got some really good feedback, from the realtors. We have one other item of agenda this evening, during the time of the whole. And that is Agenda Bill 2651, which I believe is the second touch on the proposed banner policy, and kick that off as a city administrator.
Yeah, thank you. So we put together an agenda bill, but it's not for discussion decision tonight. It's just in preparation for when the select code is adopted. So at our last council meeting, we did a workshop with nonprofits, got feedback from our nonprofits, and the invitation was also sent to our religious institutions. And so we took the feedback that we got from that meeting and then put together some of that information for the proposed banner policy. As written, it's fairly short, fairly concise, and draws from the code language that's in there, and basically just works more as a instruction policy than kind of a deep philosophical policy. We tried to keep it short so it was useful. So after the banner policy, or after the banner meeting at the last meeting, we put it together, put it in the council packet. We have not gotten any public comment on it or any additional feedback. So at this point, this is just an opportunity at a second touch to offer any more feedback with a plan that when we get closer to adoption of the sign code, this will be part of the package for adoption. Avril, do you have anything you would add to that?
That covers everything. It's content neutral as much as we can be, while still trying to engage the community. We hope.
Are there any questions for staff from council? Based on that summary? Councilmember Wiggins?
Questions, Director Brady, you want me to email those two after this meeting? Okay, I have a.
If you have them now.
Yeah,
As long as you want
that
to-
all council gets the benefit versus
Yeah.
having to distribute the questions.
See if I can read my notes. The size of the banners, I saw that one of the proposed banner sizes was, I think that a 30-foot wide banner. In my notes say that's only appropriate for an overhead street.
Mhm.
But I saw that on the corner poles and maybe on, it was also 30 feet wide. I mean, how could you possibly want to put a 30-foot wide banner that would possibly shut out into traffic or pedestrian on a corner or light pole? So was that just an oversight that probably we don't want 30-foot wide banners on light poles? And I wish I could tell you what page that was on or where that.
I don't know, we can look. I mean, the only time we want a 30-foot banner is over.
I think there's a matrix as a maximum size for light pole banners or street lights or.
I see it's in the draft policy. I am wondering if I was being very human
And I could have
and
just looked at it.
accidentally left that in there when working from my notes.
Oh, yeah, I see, street pole banner. Yeah, no, we would not. have a
Okay.
30-foot wide street pole banner.
That would be huge.
Yeah,
No, we'll fix that when we bring it back.
nice catch. We appreciate that.
And the corner pole banner is gonna be, that the width will be dictated by the distance between the two poles. I think the only one was really around the street pole banner in terms of how we define the offset. In terms of that piece, but yeah, I would expect, Paul, that the corner pole banner would also be smaller because the pole distance is shorter.
Thank you.
That as a typo and we won't get that out of there.
Well, and actually, I think we have it right here. What the dimensions are. Maybe on this. We'll go back and fix that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Crowdsourcing.
One other item that I was questioning was sponsor space. I understand that business logos will not be permitted except for businesses that are sponsoring a community activity, a celebration or event. So a question for staff is, do we want to limit the size of these sponsor logos to a specific mathematical percentage of the banner area? Like, logos can be 10% or no more than 25%. I mean, I could see someone maybe abusing where the wordage on the banner is yay big, and they got their big logo of their business. And maybe that's okay, but I was just curious if we wanted to limit the size of sponsor logos as a percentage of the allowable space on that banner, rather than a logo overpowering the message of the banner.
So two responses. So we do right now limit how much of the total banner can be put for sponsors.
Oh, okay.
Though this doesn't say that. One thing to be careful is we want to have if we have multiple sponsors, we want to make sure we can get them all. So that was the challenge that we've had in the past is if we all of a sudden get an event with a ton of sponsors, we wouldn't be able to put all the logos on them if we highly regulate them.
Okay.
Our goal really is to not create, and a little bit is subjective, not content message subjective, but design subjective, in that it can be really visually distracting. So staff, when they look at the banner permits, kind of look at the design, they look at the benching and say, because each banner that goes on, especially the overhead banners, are inspected down in the Public Works building by Everell and her team. So we look and see like, okay, are people really going to have to squint to see the message? If so, we would send it back. The other thing is certain sponsors get bigger logos if they have bigger sponsors packages. So it isn't that it couldn't be done, but it's a little challenging because then we'd have to limit the number of sponsors, and we do give more opportunities to those who provide bigger sponsorship.
Makes sense. I did not know that there was a review process.
Yeah, each banner is inspected.
Okay, good to know.
Councilmember Olin, do you have any, oh, I see your hand up.
There we go. I'm looking for the mute button. Yes, I had, well, three things, but actually Councilmember Wiggins said the same thing as one of mine. I was just going to suggest that we say that sponsor recognition shall remain incidental to the primary community message. Just essentially as a way of saying the same thing. It just gives staff an objective criteria to make sure that the corporate logos are smaller than the community message. I don't really care about exactly what the language is, but the same point. The other two things that jumped out at me in this document were at the end, the very last bullet point in this document where it talks about scheduling and installation. So the last bullet point says approval and review of the messages or speech on individual signage. And I wondered if approval and review of the messages or speech by some could sound too subjective, and if it would be better to say that maybe verification, maybe to verify that the content conforms to the policy or something.
Yeah.
More, you know what I'm saying?
I agree. Yeah, that might be a cleaner way of saying it, because again, the banners are a little different because this is now government speech, but there's probably, I like your suggestion of a more nuanced way, the verification of
Conformance.
Conformity, not that we're reviewing each speech specifically, but that it's just conforming to the policy. And then the last thing was more of an omission. There's nothing in here that I noticed that just mentions when scheduling conflicts occur. And so when scheduling conflicts occur, city-sponsored events should take precedence over other endorsed events or something like that. Some mention of how we handle when two things want to be there at the same time.
And we have that this year. So,
is that right? There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, happy to make those changes.
Thank you, Councilmember Olin. Any other comments, questions, feedback for staff? Seeing now.
One last one. Maybe I just want to make sure I read this clearly. The policy caps all banners. Looks like a timeline of 14 days, but you can put it up 3 weeks prior to an event. And then it kicks in and the 14 days start at the time of the event. Is that how that works?
Let's see, duration 14 days, displayed no more than 3 weeks before the event.
So I could put a banner up for
So you could,
5, I could have it for 5 weeks.
No,
so it could be up for 14 days. But you might want to have it up depending on what windows of time are available. If you have a Christmas market in December, that, or a holiday market, winter holiday market in December. You cannot start having a sign in July for 2 weeks and then have another one in August for 2 weeks and then have another one. So the idea is that whatever the event is for, you have that sign up within a window of that date. So it doesn't have to be up during the date of said winter holiday market. But if you do want to have it up, no more than 3 weeks. So it's up to a person to decide what 2 weeks they want, when it's available, and when Steve has a question.
And it has to do with kind of the orienting and scheduling of putting signs up. It's just because you want it on Tuesday doesn't mean you're going to get it on Tuesday. So staff needs flexibility on having enough staff to get the equipment out to get the signs over the highway. So there's a little bit of push and pull.
Okay.
And same thing on the back end. It's 3 weeks kind of window. It may be 15 days, depending on if the 14th day is a Sunday kind of thing. So we don't take, we don't make special arrangements to put signs up. They go up during business hours. It's traffic related and it's staff amount of staff we have related to get them all up. So that's that little buffer.
Gotcha.
So, that was the only one that I was gonna comment on too, because I, it's sort of like the feedback we got from the realtors around some big board stuff. That is a little confusing. Like if it was 21 days, because you could put it up, the day before or the start of the 3 weeks, run it up to the day of the event. And then when it got taken down would be a little bit at the discretion of the staff. But it's the 14 days, I'm just saying that may confuse some people because it's like 2 different windows. Because it would never be, if it was 14 days, you could never get 3 weeks before. Unless you took it down the week before the event, which doesn't make sense because you would typically run it right up to the event.
So we can workshop this. The challenge is, and let's use May 15th through June 15th as an example. You have Art and Bloom, you have Duval Days, you have Summer Stage, you have school promoting graduate. So we often actually can't have signs up for even 14 days because we have so many requests. So we're often talking to applicants like, okay, we can get you up for a week, but no, before you put in your application, we had somebody ask for that for the next 2 weeks. So there are times where we can't even, have our own signs up for the full 14 days. Like Touch a Truck was only up for maybe 5 days because we had somebody else wanting to come in right after that. So I think we want to be careful when we rewrite this, because even if you could have it up 14 days, it doesn't mean you're always going to be able to, given all the demands, because we only have 3.
I think that's fine if it's rotating. I'm just saying the way it reads now, it's not clear. Like it's also, in terms of if you can reword it to be clear that it's.
So maybe up to 14 days, depending on availability.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say, is can we add the up to,
Yeah.
so that there's not that expectation
Well,
of I'm entitled to 14 days because that's what it says.
Yeah.
Okay, up to, and then, depending on, I think that's great language.
Does council have any thoughts about the timing of a banner relative to the event? So that second part displayed no more than 3 weeks before the event.
So like for Duval Days, welcome to Duval. Duval Days is coming around the corner. How long is that big one up there for?
This year, it came late. It came 5-6 days before Duval Day, so we only had it up for maybe.
And you had the sign down at 124th for longer. There was some other signs in
But we
there.
don't, we don't regulate that, and one of them might still be up actually. Down at 124th, I think it's still there. But yeah, in the city, the overhead banner, I think for Duval Days was only up for 6 days this year.
Okay. And that was an intentional, the plan was to have at least 14 solid days of it up to bring awareness.
Sometimes, yeah, I mean, I think for the city, we try to be respectful of the big events, even if they're not ours.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if we can have ours only up for a few days because we know we have Art and Bloom coming, we have Duval Days, like we'll try to shorten ours and be impactful, and not have them up for 14 days when we know we have, you know, a lot of other requests.
And I think the change that the mayor recommended sort of addresses some of that, Mayor.
Well, I was gonna say with the length or the time before an event, right now it's 3 weeks. I mean, I would go for whatever provides us the most flexibility to accommodate as many groups. So if you feel a month would make it harder, then don't do that. Stick with 3 weeks. But if you feel like up to a month before the event would allow us a little more wiggle room, I don't know. Like, I don't know which way that goes. Because I know sometimes it can be easier to have it more constrained. I also think that applicants understanding that you get one shot at this. So, you know, to try and avoid, they're trying to get in early,
Right.
but okay, you're not gonna be able to continuously,
Right.
you know, rotate it through,
And
so.
so a question, for you, as government speech and city sponsored events for these banners. Do you feel this is even needed? Up to a certain amount of time before an event, or
Because it's driving on speed.
do we strike that part of the call?
We can just also make a decision on when they'll be scheduled to go up, is that essentially what you're
Right, so
saying?
if we keep up to 14 days, depending on availability,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's the best case flexibility for the city to be able to juggle it, then why not? Why make it easier? Why not make it easier, I guess? I don't know, I can't really.
No, I mean, I think that's okay, as long as it doesn't create sort of the absence of written policy creates in and of itself a problem, you know, in terms of expectation setting, but since it is defined as government speech, there is a certain discretion at the city level that doesn't exist for some of the other signage.
Like maybe if you wanted to say anything, maybe ideally no more than 4 weeks before an event or something, but it's not,
Might not even need it.
but you might not need to.
Yeah, and these are the city's poles, these are the city's infrastructure. It's not the right of a private individual to put these signs up
Yeah.
in our right of way.
Yeah, makes sense.
And you may want to add some, and the council may want to weigh in here, I don't know, like, you know, inflation at the discretion of city staff or public works, or I don't know, you know, maybe that's not directly in the policy, but that would be the other way that you could set the expectations, you know, upon application, like, well, we think we could get this up in, you know, 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, because then it's a conversation with the applicant.
Right, so we haven't drafted in here that it must be submitted at least 60 days prior to installation. For any of the corner pole overhead banner to be installed by city only. And then anything else would either be installed by the city or would require right of way permit. And so whenever right of way permits are issued, there are insurance requirements to be documented in order for us to issue that right of way permit.
Any concerns, questions, or feedback? Becky, you have some direction?
Yes.
Thanks, Emma.
And, yeah, well, I was gonna say 6:58, but, so, I'll call the committee of the whole workshop, to close at 7 PM and give us maybe 4 or 5 minutes, to reconvene.
Voters?
Yeah.
IT?
We'll call to order the city council meeting at 7:05. Could you please stand for the flag? Please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Yes. Mayor McHenry,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer,
Here.
Councilmember Olin,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Councilmember Kozlowski,
Here.
Councilmember Seppel,
Here.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, actually, if there's no objections to add to consent agenda, an excusal for Councilmember Hernandez if they were not feeling well this evening. Not hearing any objections, so we can add that to consent. And with none other, or is there a motion to approve the agenda tonight?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the council agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, we have proclamations. We just have one proclamation tonight. And that's Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas the city of Duval enjoys beautiful parks, trails, open spaces, and recreational amenities that offer opportunities for relaxation, exercise, play, and connecting with nature. Whereas our parks are treasured gathering places where families create memories, children discover the outdoors, neighbors build community, and residents and visitors alike experience the natural beauty that makes Duval and the Snoqualmie Valley such a special place to call home. And whereas the quality and beauty of our parks would not be possible without the dedication, hard work, and stewardship of the city employees, maintenance crews, volunteers, and community partners who devote countless hours to preserving and enhancing these public spaces for the benefit of all. And whereas Parks and Recreation contributes significantly to the health, wellness, environmental sustainability, and overall quality of life of our community, serving as places where people of all ages and abilities can connect, learn, and thrive. And whereas the continued enjoyment of our parks depends upon the shared responsibility of every resident to care for these treasured spaces by treating them with respect, keeping them clean, protecting natural resources, and ensuring they remain welcoming and vibrant for future generations. And whereas Parks and Recreation Month is an opportunity to celebrate the invaluable role that Parks and Recreation play in strengthening our community and to recognize those whose efforts make these places possible. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim July 2026 as Parks and Recreation Month. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to visit and enjoy our parks, express appreciation to those who care for them, and recommit themselves to being good stewards of these treasured community spaces. All right, and next up, we have comments from the audience. During the designated public commentary period at city council meetings, individuals are allotted 3 minutes to speak, while representatives of organizations may address the council for up to 5 minutes. Before presenting, kindly disclose your full name and city of residence. Each speaker and all remarks shall be addressed to the city council as a body and not to individual members of council or staff. The city strongly advises submitting verbal comments in writing to expedite subsequent correspondence. Written comments must be received by the city clerk's office by noon on the meeting day, addressed to P.O. Box 1300 Duval Walk 98019, or deposited at the City Hall drop box located at 15535 Main Street Northeast, or by email. Please be aware that the City Council, its boards, and its commissions accept public comments only from in-person attendees at the meeting. The Council does not accept handouts or printed material during public commentary sessions. Information intended for the Mayor or the City Council shall be directed to the City Clerk, who will disseminate it following the submitter's instructions. Upon receipt, the City Clerk will receive written public comments and subsequently furnish them to the City Council or the relevant board or commission. However, it's important to note that written comments will not be orally presented during the council or applicable board or commission meetings. Any written comments received after the noon deadline for written comments will be shared with the council at the next council meeting as a part of the City Clerk's report. Do we have anyone sign up? And I just want to note that we have general, this commentary period from the audience, and then we do also have one public hearing tonight as well. Oh, two. Yeah. Is there anyone signed up?
Yes, we have 4 for public comment. First is Randy Benecker with Seattle King County Realtors.
Okay, go ahead and approach the podium and state your name and city of residence, please. And then you will have, is it an organization that I heard? Yeah, so 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and Randy Banneker here on behalf of the Seattle King County Realtors, reside in Seattle. And just briefly tonight, I wanted to thank you for the community workshop and discussion. I think it feels really good to have a collaborative process, and we would love to land on a code that works for you and works for us. Two additional points. This sign code update is made more complicated, I think, because of the content neutral mandate that comes out of the Reed versus Gilbert Supreme Court decision. I'm saying this mostly because I want to put this into your record, and that is, since that decision, which has been almost 10 years, there have been subsequent decisions, and there's been greater flexibility and reading of that decision that gives you some parameters to establish sign categories. And the reason for doing that is because you can craft a code that can it just gives you more tools to guard against proliferation of signage that might be undesirable. And we have examples throughout the region of cities that have done that. And I just wanted to mention that. I'm happy to provide examples, and I will follow up with specifics in writing. And lastly, I just wanted to describe our self-enforcement program among members. The folks that you heard from, that you discussed with, had the conversation with tonight, principally are Duval realtors. We have a mechanism if their colleagues from out of town place signage in Duval that violates the code, they can call me and I can go after those folks. I can speak with their designated brokers who they'll listen to very, very quickly. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And often it's a matter of education. But I just want you to know that it's another opportunity for us to work with code compliance, recognizing that violations of the sign code do not look good for our members, for our business. And we want to make sure that real estate signage is looking good and represents the spirit that we want to convey and join in partnership with the cities that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Michaela G on behalf of yourself.
Michaela? I don't know if she's still here, actually. Yeah, okay. Excellent.
So next is, can't pick the first name, but it looks like Maskin or Maslin on behalf of Eddie Energy.
I think we were kind of speaking to public here.
Oh, okay.
Next I have Jen with Reclaim.
Thank you. My name is Jen Kirk, and I am the director of Reclaim. My colleague, Aisha Gordon, was here a couple weeks ago to talk to you about this camping ordinance that you guys have been working so hard on. And I think that even though this isn't on the agenda today, I believe you guys will be talking about this again a couple weeks from now. So I was just hoping to get in here and just make a few comments really quick, and I will be representing Reclaim in this. So good evening, Mayor and Council. As I mentioned, I'm Jen Kirk. I'm the Executive Director and the co-founder of Reclaim, a Snoqualmie-based agency serving people living in poverty throughout our valley. Over the past 13 years, we have sheltered 21 of your outdoor neighbors and served another 24 through our Community Service Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am deeply encouraged by what I've seen from the City of Duval regarding the implementation of a camping ordinance. The willingness of staff and council to engage, to visit providers, and to accept input from those on the ground is impressive. Yours is a city trying to get this right, and we're here to help you do that. While there's been some promising forward progress on this proposed ordinance, I'd like to speak to two specific elements that I believe can be strengthened before you vote. While I recognize and respect your need to manage public spaces, I'm hopeful you can build an ordinance that is threefold: effective, compassionate, and reflective of who Duval is as a community. I understand the $250 fine has been reduced to a single charge per person, and I accept that clarification, or I appreciate that clarification. But I want to be honest with you about what that fine will and won't do in practice. A person sleeping in a public park almost certainly has little to no income, no bank account, and no means to pay $250. The fine will go unpaid. It will then require staff time to process, potentially court time to pursue, and public defender costs to adjudicate, all of which will fall on your budget and your taxpayers. Studies consistently show that fines levied against people experiencing homelessness cost municipalities more to enforce than they ever collect. You will spend more trying to collect $250 than $250 is worth. What I'd ask instead is that the ordinance include clear language specifying the circumstances that actually warrant a fine, situations involving genuine public health hazards, significant property damage, or excessive personal items like vehicles being left behind. That kind of specificity protects the city legally, gives officers clear guidance, and ensures the fine is a tool of last resort rather than a default response. I also want to make a case for extending the 24-hour notice to 72 hours. When an officer contacts someone living unsheltered in Duval, that person needs time to actually do something with the information they're given. Consider what that looks like on the ground. King County 211 can take time to return a call. Our intake process at Reclaim involves an assessment and often a waiting period. There is no bus service out of Duval on weekends. If contact is made on a Friday, that 24-hour clock expires on Saturday when no services are open. No transportation is running and nothing can move. A 72-hour window, by contrast, almost always contains at least one weekday, at least one opportunity to make a call, get a response, and take a step toward a solution. 72 hours does not limit law enforcement's authority by in any meaningful way. If anyone presents an immediate safety risk, becomes violent, or breaks a law, officers can and should act immediately. The ordinance already provides for that, and rightly so. The 72-hour notice applies only to situations that are non-emergencies. In those situations, which are the vast majority, giving a human being 3 days to connect with help before enforcement action costs the city nothing. It costs taxpayers nothing. And it drastically increases the likelihood that the situation actually resolves rather than simply forcing relocation. It gives your first responders good faith outreach efforts time to actually work. I will never advocate for someone's right to camp indefinitely in a public park. What I am asking is that before the weight of law comes down on someone who has nowhere to go, we give them a genuine practical opportunity to find somewhere to go. Duval has a chance to pass an ordinance that other cities will look at as a model of how to do this well. You have an opportunity to prioritize outcomes alongside enforcement and to treat every person in this community, including your most vulnerable, as someone worth the extra 24 hours. Reclaim is ready to partner with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else signed up?
Not signed up.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wanted to give public comment that didn't sign up? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on then to the consent agenda. Council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight?
So moved.
So,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, scheduled items. First up, mayor's reports. Mine is actually fairly short tonight. So I attended June's FPA board meeting where we appointed some additional members to regional committee vacancies. I volunteered to serve on the 2026-27 FCA legislative committee. I thought that would be a nice bookend with Mayor Pro Tem Mercer doing AWC. We reviewed the 2027 solid waste response letter as well as the December 2025 flood response FCA survey, and then ended up providing a lot more additional information to staff, even though I think they were just mostly going to review it, but some time had passed. We all had a little more to give. So I also attended the PSRC growth management policy board meeting. main topics were the scope of the regional centers framework. That was something continuing. That's not a regional center's not anything Duval will ever have, but larger cities have those, and so that's been an interesting process. And then a preview of the housing data tool, which is going to provide closer to live data across the region of all these different stats, like number of permits, and just, I mean, it's pretty incredible, and it was neat to see a preview of that. I took a long holiday with my family, and so now I'm back, and I attended a planning meeting for Snoqualmie Valley Government Association, and we discussed potential upcoming topics. One of the main ones that I brought up was wanting to hear what each city's priorities were. We used to do legislative priorities for SVGA, which makes sense sometimes, but I would say currently, I think, you know, we've advocated for the roundabout for Carnation, and now it's kind of looking for that next thing. What's SVGA going to get behind? And then I completed a risk assessment inquiry with State Auditor's Office, and I attended this morning the SCA North Mayor's meeting, where we basically recapped impacts from FIFA, which for Duval was not really much anything, thoughts around outcomes of the King County Transportation District sales tax, and other happenings in our city. And that's all I have for tonight. Any questions for me? Okay, so next up we'll do City Administrator's report or update.
Thank you. Cynthia McNabb, City Administrator. We'll pull up the report. And as is customary, I will hand it off to our Public Works Director to give the Public Works update first.
Good evening, Mayor, staff, council, citizens. Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. Okay. We have all 6.2 of our summer helpers on board, and they are attacking storm prevention ponds at this time. We have 30 above ground storage ponds, so we are almost through all 30, and then we typically do other things, and then towards the end of the summer do all water ponds again. Next slide. So some current projects, we did mow the Doherty Farm. We rented some equipment to mow several properties since we don't have a large scale mower, but it broke after Doherty, so we're just waiting on a replacement. Sadly, we'll have to wait until after middle August. We rent a Vector truck to clean all the scoring system out, and then we run a sweeper after that. So July and August are booked for the road storm team. But we also took some trees down at Lake Rasmussen. We had some danger trees. They were fairly tall poplars, and they were all dying, and their roots were actually intruding into some adjacent properties. So that was some imagery of the crane team and the bucket truck team that goes down. That was 2 weeks ago. Next slide. Just a heads up, this is a little bit busy of an image, but the upper image is Northeast 150th Street from 275th on the left by Judd Park up to 278. So we have that sidewalk gap project going in, and we'll be doing some roadway traffic control for utility locating underground. There's pretty much everything underground there. So they're going to be doing some hole poking in the ground. Tomorrow, we're going to meet with the YESS, the Youth Engaged in Sustainable Systems Program. Riverview School District teachers reached out to us, and in partnership with them and Mountain Sun Greenway, they go through the area and try to do meaningful projects themselves. And then they are also up for kind of lecture series days. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about more along the lines of regional and local stormwater management, and then how that, how the natural creek and stream infrastructure blends in with discharges from stormwater, and how our management is an important part of the whole ecosystem. So that's tomorrow. We're receiving them around 11:30, and I think they take off around 2:30. So we're going to check out a couple of culverts, a couple of planting projects that we've done with Mountain Sun Greenway off the Valley Trail. Have a good time with high school kids. They sent over their bios over, pretty funny. Like some of them were like, "Yeah, I get a stipend." Like, that's why I'm here. Some are very interested in environmental science. So it was entertaining nonetheless. So that's tomorrow. And then we did, Cynthia and I were at the Parks Advisory Committee last night. We have an advisory committee member in the audience, Paige Dennison is here, so she didn't get enough last night, she wanted more. Next slide. Paving is going underway in Parkwood. They are almost wrapped up. I thought it was pretty funny. So the not good image is a catch basin that was brick with broken bricks and asphalt chunks, and nobody needs to wonder why it failed. On the right is what you would use as a typical concrete riser to get the ring or the lid of the inlet at the surface, not bricks and rocks. If you didn't know Parkwood, it was really in bad shape, and a lot of the utilities were settling that were around the road. We figured the road was really in bad shape with terrible subgrade. It actually was not. It was just poor utility infrastructure tied into it. So we did some under drains. We fixed all of the storm boxes and other appurtenances that were at the surface. So that is moving along pretty well. Next slide. Okay, Skylit Ridge, which is just off of 143rd and 3rd. They paved their subdivision, so we allow paving of the final lift at 80% build out. We do that to hold the subgrade and its building by the contractors accountable. Usually you can find failures in subgrade when you have less asphalt in place. So we allow about half of it to go down, a little more than half. And that's why you always have a concrete lip adjacent. But if you put in 4 to 5 inches of asphalt, you would never find any failures until 15 years, and then you'd be damning me. So we have code in place to protect city and its investment because that infrastructure doesn't require. So stormwater, water, and sewer are all bought off, and concrete is repaired that was broken, and they were paving yesterday. Next slide. Other stuff going on, Public Works. That is the pump house of the Big Rock water tank. So the image on the top left is the 3 blue kind of cone-shaped motors are the pump motors that push water from the lower zone to the upper zones. We are rebuilding each of those one by one. As you can see in the bottom right, the little red symbol is a pump symbol that's red. Like as soon as it got pulled out today, it was gone. So the logic, knows not to tell that pump to put water into the system that leaves the other pumps. But they pulled it out of the skylight. So that was built. If you've driven by, you can't see it from the road to the other side. There's 4 skylights. They were built to install and or remove 4 pumps. We have 3, but we are built for 4, which we're putting in with this renovation project as well. Let's see. Next slide. I'm done. Any questions for Public Works?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Director Beatty.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Earl Beatty, Community and Economic Development. So on July 2nd, there was the first city booth at the farmers market. And our principal planner, Morgan Dorner, she attended with the city administrator and talked about an open house that we're going to be having on July 22nd to talk about the comprehensive plan update. So not only do we have all of the zoning code changes that are required, we also need to update some of the text to talk about the housing and jobs capacity. So open house for the public on July. Everybody here is also invited. We even got QR code because we're no longer in the Stone Age. So people were able to ask questions at the farmers market, and it was a good time for all. So extending the invitation to everyone, and we have information on the city website. Slowly making improvements to said web pages, but Duval.gov/comp plan will shortcut you to the main landing page, and then there's a nice flashy button that'll put you update on the zoning code changes. So you check it out. Let me know if there's any typos on anything. Next slide, please. So right now we have a couple of projects that are under review. Acres of Diamonds is going tomorrow night for design review at Planning Commission. They've done a pretty good job of updating the project to conform to our design standards. which is always appreciated when the applicant does not adopt design standards. And under review now, we have Versus Sports. This is the property that is a temporary retention pond just south of the Moons Park. It's two Moons Park, thank you. So indoor recreation, the idea is to have space for indoor soccer and badminton and pickleball and other sort of rec space, a little coffee shop inside. So this is the initial rendering that we have. Staff has not completed review, and there will be some comments, but offhand, I feel like they started off on the right foot. And additionally, we're still reviewing the Duval Moss clearing grading permit and various permits for the townhomes, also known as Town 1. Next slide, please. Oh, I forgot to delete that image. So you get to see the Acres of Diamonds image twice. Corrections are still required. I was updated by staff that Acres of Diamonds had done their corrections, and I didn't update the slide, so ignore that part of it. But the James Society, we are still waiting on revisions to that building, so still under review. Next slide, please. And back to City Administrator.
Okay.
So just one quick question. I know you indicated last Thursday, are there plans to do future, between now and the 22nd, obviously there's additional farmers markets. Was this sort of a one-off? I was just kind of curious, or if the city was going to have a presence at the farmers market going forward.
The city has the booth at the farmers market on August 6th, I also.
If that's a Thursday, the first week of August.
Yeah, so those are the only dates.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just kind of curious, because it's obviously another place to engage,
Yeah.
the public.
The Community Economic Development Department is also going to have our chief building official there on 6th of August to answer questions and to provide information on like basic home projects and basic rules that apply and things that might need permits and things like that. It's like a general outreach to residents, because there's a lot of frequently asked questions, and just to let people know what resources are available to them.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Kozlowski?
For the Acres of Diamonds, what's their current number of units that are like beds that they have today, and then what are they going to with this one, just out of curiosity?
I do not have that information on the top of my head. The planning commission agenda is posted.
Okay.
So you can look it up on the agenda webpage.
Thank you.
All right, so that's all.
Okay. Quick updates from administration. So first, just a reminder that we have our budget retreat this Friday from 6 to 8 here at the Visitor Center. We will have dinner provided for that evening, and on Monday, the agenda packet went out to you. Also, all of the information for that meeting is in your email. We have the second round of interviews for our administrative one position, which is the face of Duval at the front desk in City Hall. And so we've extended an offer to our top candidate to join the city clerk's office. So we're looking forward to that. And once we get everything done, we will be happy to introduce them to council, but we're very excited. And then we have not told council, but we wanted to tell you that you can choose from selected branded city jackets, polos to wear to meetings and events. And if you're interested, please let us know. So most staff have a polo, most of us have a jacket. We have events t-shirts. So if you're interested, just shoot the city clerk a message and we can get you a branded jacket or polo to wear to meetings. Yes.
And I've been told that you may order any color you like as long as it's navy blue.
I will share that staff in our water department, which I think is probably the most charming story that we've had in the last year, realized that our utility billing associate is often cold in her office. And 2 Fridays ago, she came to work and there was on their dime a branded Snuggie that they bought for her as a gift for all the work that she does to support our utility department. So it's very cute and she's wearing it with pride. It looks like a dress on her. Next slide. So just a couple updates for me. I'm interviewing the 2 finalists for our police chief recruiters. This week we had 6 responses to our request for proposals. 2 rose to the top. And so I have an interview with 1 tomorrow and an interview with the second one on Thursday. The contract for services should be in your next council packet, assuming I can get the contract negotiated with them. I've been selected as a jurisdictional representative to the King County Citizens Election Oversight Committee. So I went through an interview process with a subcommittee of the King County Council and then appointed by the King County Council. There's 1 jurisdictional representative on that election committee, and so I'm it. As part of that role, I'll be serving on the election monitoring subcommittee, and that subcommittee requires the Republican Party representative, the Democratic Party representative, and the Spanish-speaking representative. So I opted to join that subcommittee to be their 4th member. And then as Jen with Reclaim noted in her public comment last week, I met with Reclaim to talk about their services that they provide to the Snoqualmie Valley and to the unhoused population. Got some really good information. And then yesterday, I went to Bellevue and met with Porchlight, which is a male shelter in Bellevue off of Eastgate, and met with them, saw their facility, got some information about resources that they can provide to people in Duval who are unhoused. And so at the next meeting, I'll put together those notes and provide it to council as we deliberate on the. And I think that might be it. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, Matt. Oh, did you have one or no?
No.
Oh, okay. Not seeing any, so thank you for that, and we'll move on to council reports. Are there any council members who have reports today? Mayor Pro Tem Mercer?
So I have one, and Adam, you may want to weigh in as well, but had the opportunity to attend the AWC annual conference last week, I guess, or the week before, actually. I guess that I retired last week, so it's kind of all blurred together. You know, it was a great, I think they took a lot of the feedback from previous years. There was a lot broader content in terms of for a wide, you know, from staff to council members to various elected officials. You know, it was a couple of the call outs that I wanted to highlight. There was a super interesting economist from UW. He talked about the Washington housing situation and all the interconnected pieces. It provided a lot of context in terms of how complex it is beyond just a shortage of housing, all the interplay of various factors. I was able to attend a middle housing tour where visited 21 different projects throughout Spokane, all different areas and mixtures and price points and structures. Really kind of showed what you could do when you sort of open up some of the opportunities and remove some of the barriers to building. There was a really interesting speaker. I went ahead and ordered the book on 13 ways to build community, and it was really the sort of inverse of, you know, how you think about policy within your community. There's some of the adverse effects that or unintentional consequences of certain decisions you can make. And then a workshop on empowering youth. I know the mayor's done some outreach in that community, building youth councils, lots of different form factors. And then was able to actually meet as part of the legislative priorities committee. We had a meeting with the state, some of the state Senate and House representative members to rework policies. I think we have 3 more meetings before we'll actually present to the board, but, you know, again, made some progress. And then always the humbling AWC communities for coalition for gonna get the first 2 right, but quality communities. where they award the scholarships to the various students. And, as once again, a bunch of underachievers now, actually, way overachievers. And it really was nice to be able to, this year, they were actually able to expand going into next year, the number of scholarships they're going to be able to provide based on the donations that were made during the launch. So again, a great opportunity to connect with other elected officials, but also sort of, build up some additional knowledge and bring that back to Duval. So.
Nice, thank you. Any other council reports? Councilmember Olin?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep mine brief. I want to be sensitive to saving time for the public hearings later, but just to kind of add on to the AWC conference, along with Mayor Pro Tem Mercer and Administrator McNabb. I mean, it was an incredibly valuable conference. We took a divide and conquer approach, and so because we were all able to go to different sessions, I think we were able to extract a lot of different kinds of information and bring it back. I mean, I personally, I went to sessions on housing, on public safety, on the use of technology and law enforcement, on indigent defense, tax policy, communications and city visioning, annexation, and the economic forecast. And that was me, right? And so I imagine how much more information came back to the city just from that. One of the sessions I went to, it sounds like there's a funding source, a grant source that we're not yet taking advantage of, that we didn't know about. And so I know city staff is looking into that. And if that proves to be a channel that we didn't have, I mean, that by itself potentially pays for the conference. And so I just, it's such a valuable tool. And then, even between the formal information sessions, there's so much dialogue to be had in the informal sessions. And I know I had conversations where I was able to, kind of untie knots of issues that I've been trying to figure out, even since I've been on council, and just really good conversations with other elected officials, other city staff members from other cities who have gone through it and done things that we're looking at doing before. And so it was just such an incredibly valuable opportunity. And so I think there's real tangible and intangible benefit to going to these things. And so I just support for going. I think it was highly worth it. And then the other thing I just wanted to comment, I know this public hearing is really important and I wanted to be there. I'm not, because, my technology is telling me and I don't feel great. That's why I'm not there in person, but it was important to me. So I'm glad that we have this technology that allows me to come without taking a chance of getting anybody, of being contagious and getting anybody else sick. I think I'm okay, but just in case. But I wanted to be here. So thank you for offering this remote opportunity. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being so conscientious about not potentially spreading something.
Nobody wants to be sick.
Yeah. Any other council reports tonight? All right. So with that, the part I was kind of dreading to get to this part. But do we have the okay. So I'll come up here so I can hold these frames. Are you gonna bring them up, Cynthia, or do you want me to grab one? I can go and grab it. Yes. Yeah. So this is the last meeting for two people. Rick, yours is right on top, so I'm gonna start with you. Do you want to come up? And Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to come up too, or do you just want to? Okay. Yeah, I just have to do a big photo op at the end. So I'll just read you what's on your certificate, okay? To all whom these present shall come greeting. I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, Washington, in appreciation for the 5 years of service given to the Duval City Council, extend my heartfelt gratitude along with that of the Duval City Council and city government for the significant contribution for our community's growth and development accomplished by Richard, you go Eric though, but Shaver. Councilmember Shaver's unwavering commitment, thoughtful insights, and tireless efforts have played a crucial role in shaping Duval. Throughout Councilmember Shaver's tenure with the City Council, his leadership and collaborative spirit have been invaluable. He consistently demonstrated a passion for his work, an eye for detail, and a deep understanding of the community's needs and aspirations. His dedication to excellence and ability to bring people together have left an indelible mark on the lives of residents in our community and his fellow council members. We celebrate his dedication to public service and to our city. His work has laid a solid foundation for continued progress and has set a standard of excellence that will inspire future council members. We are confident that the positive impact of his contributions will be felt for many years to come. And witness whereof, I hear it in the seal of the city on there, so that I don't need to read that part. But I want to say, like, I first met Rick via phone, because when you applied for a council seat, it was in the midst of COVID. So I had a phone call with you. And I think I didn't actually meet you in person for over a year.
That's right.
And I remember meeting you and it was
Yeah.
like a weird height thing. So you only saw people on Zoom and I was like, oh, it's so you picture people differently. You've just been amazing to work with, and I'm so sad to see you go. But I also understand you want to travel more and you have family, and I really appreciate everything you've done. And I would invite, if other council members have anything they want to say, you don't have to come up here, but you can just, no pressure if you want to say anything about Councilmember Schaefer.
Only nice things.
Yeah, filter it.
I was gonna just sort of add to the mayor's comments. I think, you know, one of the things we've strived to have, and hopefully sort of hasn't put you on the wrong foot at all, Rick, but is sort of a diversity of opinion. And I think particularly as we started this year, like having, you know, different perspectives, different, you know, being able to have really constructive dialogue within the room. I really appreciate, you know, everything that you brought to the conversations, your perspective. I think that the broader, you know, from a demographic perspective, life experience, you know, it's all good for the city. So again, I want to thank you for your contributions, and yeah, enjoy it. I know if nothing else, it's sort of there may be an opportunity to talk scuba diving sort of in the future. So look for a LinkedIn invite, and we'll touch base then. But yeah, well, you'll be missed. But appreciate it. Thanks.
Anyone else? Oh, we have the little thing for you. And then is there anything you want to say? No pressure. You don't have to.
There is, yeah.
There's a little gift for you, a little swag. Yeah, I need a phone also. You know.
Yeah, I just want to say what a great honor it was to serve with the council, current and past members, the two mayors I've had the pleasure to serve under, and the extraordinary staff that you all has. It really was a great honor for me, a great experience. I not only learned a lot, but I really enjoyed it a lot. So I'm gonna miss all you guys, and thank you for everything you've done, and continue the good work.
Yeah. Does council want to come up or maybe we wait to the end when they're both, when we get through you, and then we'll have you come up here once. So if you want to have a quick seat, then we'll do Lauren next, and then you can come back up. So if you want to take that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kozlowski, come on up. So, let's see. So I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, Washington, in appreciation for the service given to the Duval City Council, including the time served as a member and chair of the city's planning commission, I extend my heartfelt gratitude along with that of the Duval City Council and city government for the significant contribution to our community's growth and development accomplished by Lauren Kozlowski. Councilmember Kozlowski's unwavering commitment, thoughtful insights, and tireless efforts have played a crucial role in shaping Duval. Throughout Councilmember Kozlowski's tenure with the City Council, his leadership and collaborative spirit have been invaluable. He consistently demonstrated a passion for his work, an eye for detail, and a deep understanding for the community's needs and aspirations. His dedication to excellence and ability to bring people together have left an indelible mark on the lives of residents in our community and his fellow council members. We celebrate his dedication to public service and to our city. His work has laid a solid foundation for continued progress and has set a standard of excellence that will inspire future council members. We are confident that the positive impact of his contributions will be felt for many years to come. So I have not known you as long as Rick, but the time I have known you, I've really enjoyed, and I'm really sad that I don't get to spend more time with you, but I'm also excited to see what you do down in LA. I expect to see, I don't know, something going on down there with politics, but I think you always had great insight, and I think you have a good instinct for things, and you're so respectful and kind in how you contribute your opinions. So I just wish you the best of luck with your future. Do other council members have anything they'd like to say about Council Member Kozlowski?
Well, I'll sort of just add briefly, because similar to you, I've had less experience to learn. You know, I wanted to also acknowledge, you know, the contribution he's made to planning commission before he moved to council. I think, you know, there's an experience there, but in terms of, to echo something the mayor said, your sort of thoughtful perspective. I mean, you weren't always the one sort of talking the most in the room, but when you did have something to say, it was very insightful. You added to the conversation, and so I really appreciate the contribution. And Yeah, I know your wife appreciates your supporting her and her career journey as well, but, yeah, I can't wait to see what you do going forward.
Thank you.
And did you have anything you wanted to say? No pressure if you don't.
I just wanted to thank you. Well, first to the city for when I got invited to join planning commission. I know I'm probably one of the newer residents in Duval as well, so I've really enjoyed learning a lot, and I think that's what enticed me to raise my hand for city council as well. And I really enjoyed the mentorship throughout the process. And I'll definitely carry that forward. And sad to my time in Duval be a little bit short, but I'll still be watching from the sidelines. We're still going to keep our house here, so definitely still invested. But yeah, we've cheered from the sidelines for a while.
So there's a chance you can come in. So I'll give this to you. And then if council wants to come back up, we could do one picture. There you go. That's gonna be okay. Do you want us to kind of, Kelsey, where do you want us? We could just scoot, should we move it? Okay. How about Lauren and Rick, do you want to hold your certificate too?
Okay. Thank you.
She's losing my.
Oh, my God, over. Thank you both for your service. We're gonna miss you.
You know. Yeah. Wow, much. I know
And I know we still have you until the end of the meeting, so. Okay. Can I just read this once for both? Yes, okay. Sorry, it's like I'm still. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have 2 public hearings, so I'm going to read the disclaimer for both. In adherence to the regulations outlined for public hearings before the Duval City Council as part of Chapter 10 of Council Procedures, any individual seeking to address the council during the designated public comment segment must comply with the following procedures. First, sign in on the provided form specific to the public hearing, and second, thoroughly complete all pertinent sections of the said form. On commencement of the hearing, as announced by the chair, typically the mayor, the city clerk will present the sign-in sheet to the chair. Subsequently, the chair will proceed with the agenda for the public hearing. Each speaker will be summoned to the podium in the order listed on the sign-in form and must state their name and, if relevant, their address, affiliation with any organization or group being represented, and their corresponding role or position within that organization or group. Time limits for speaking engagements are 3 minutes for individuals speaking on their own behalf and 5 minutes for those representing a group or organization, unless otherwise determined by a majority vote of the council present. The city clerk will monitor and enforce these time limits, setting a timer for each speaker to ensure adherence. Comments should be pertinent to the subject matter of the public hearing and respectfully addressed to the city council. Personal remarks are deemed inappropriate. Disorderly conduct, including disruptive behaviors such as cheering, applause, booing, or harassment, will not be tolerated and may result in removal from the premises. Speakers may alternatively submit written comments, which will be added to the official record by the city clerk. Questions posed during the hearing will not be answered immediately. They may be addressed at the chair's discretion after the comment period closes. Copies of the city council and public hearing procedures will be available upon request and distributed to attendees at the outset of each public hearing session conducted by the Duval City Council. So first up, we have our first public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Proposed amendment to DMC 14.42 on sensitive areas. And we have Director Beatty to give us an intro.
I'm sure as you all remember in full detail, the proposed amendments to the sensitive area ordinance required to be updated every 10 years for the GMA. We have not received any edits or comments or revisions to any of the proposed amendments. So I am under the impression that everybody is thrilled with the work as proposed so far. And as such, staff does not have any additional amendments to make to the amendments. So if there's any final comments or feedback that anybody has.
So it's not from council, but we'll get it from the audience. Yeah. Okay. So first, I'm just going to go through these since we have 2. I'm not sure who said yes to what I can guess, but I don't want to assume. Is Cass Holtman still here? Thanks, Sheila. Okay. And then Sam, I believe you were for the other public hearing, yes? Okay. And Matt, the next public hearing as well, I'm assuming. And then, okay, so I'm not seeing anyone on the list signed up. Does anyone in the audience want to speak to the sensitive areas public hearing tonight? Okay, I'm not seeing any, and this is one we can close the tonight, correct? Yeah. So I will go ahead, hearing no comments from the audience, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on sensitive areas. Next up, we have a public hearing on the moratorium on battery energy storage solutions. And I will go ahead and open that public hearing and turn it over to our city administrator, Cynthia McNabb.
Good evening. We have a slide deck to set the stage for our public hearing tonight, and we'll share that with the audience. Okay, so tonight we're here for our public hearing. Public hearing is required within 60 days of going into a moratorium according to state law. So this is the hearing that comes from the establishment of the moratorium for land use action. Next slide. So this is specifically regarding battery energy storage systems. Try saying that 4 times fast. I'll refer to them as BESS facilities. So they're installations designed to store electrical energy for later use, typically consisting of batteries, power conversion systems, and control equipment. The primary function of BESS facilities is to store excess electricity generated during periods of low demand or high renewable energy production, such as from solar or wind sources. The stored energy can then be discharged when demand is high or when renewable energy generation is low, helping to stabilize the electrical grid and improve overall energy reliability. These are not the same energy storage systems, or at least for the purpose of this moratorium, that you would have in your home to support electric car charging, for instance. These are really the moratorium for this purpose is really directed to the larger sub-regional utilities constructed by an energy company or a subcontractor for an energy company. Next slide. So what current projects are proposed for Duval right now? At present, we have no filed land use applications for a BESS facility. We've had one pre-application meeting with a project developer for a BESS facility in our light industrial zone. There was separate interest in placing one on city property near Big Rock Park. The city has determined that the area near Big Rock is not suitable, that particular site for a BESS facility, for a variety of reasons, one of which is the city needs the majority of that lot for city use. Next slide. So currently, what does our municipal code allow? The current development regulations in Title 14 of the Duval Municipal Code would allow a BESS facility in most zoning areas of the city under the definition of a sub-regional facility. Specifically of the one that we have an interest in, a BESS facility is allowed under our current code in the light industrial zone, and that would be an allowed use under 1430.020Z of our municipal code. The city's development regulations, and specifically the definition of a sub-regional utility for DMC 1406.190, and the permitted and conditional uses provided in chapter 1462.020 have not been updated to reflect recent technological changes and business models in the energy storage and electrical utility industry. Most of the existing code dates back to 2007. So the code that allows sub-regional facilities was last amended for the most part in 2007. So it does not reflect any new development, new technology as part of those code provisions. Next slide. So next steps for a BESS facility in Duval. Effective June 2, 2026, the city of Duval is in a moratorium on all BESS facilities in city limits. It's a 12-month moratorium. So what does that mean? It means no establishment, location, operation, maintenance, or continuation of battery energy storage systems as a land use or accessory use to any existing use. So there's just a lot of words here. during the effective period of the moratorium. So it's a 12-month moratorium or less that the city can decide to reduce the time period of the moratorium at city council direction. So during that time, the city of Duval will not accept, process, or approve applications for building permits, land development proposals, or development permits related to or incorporating better BESS systems, including but not limited to building permits, clear and grade, short plat subdivisions, binding site plans, site plan reviews, conditional use permits, etc. Next slide. So why go into a moratorium? So the city determined that we need time to study and understand the complexities and risks of the project. So the next two slides reflects some of the potential complexities that we would like to study for the time period of the moratorium to get a better understanding of how to responsibly potentially place one in the city. So in the past, there's been fire hazards associated with them. So we certainly want to make sure we look at the fire risk and that we partner with our fire district to better understand how they might respond in case we have a fire or a malfunction of one. So some battery energy storage systems are sites where hazardous chemicals are present and could produce the potential of discharge of contaminants in the groundwater. So we want to make sure that as we think about the proposed siting, that we're mindful of any hazardous chemicals that are associated with it. Likewise, air quality hazards in the event of a fire. The visual impacts of BESS systems, we currently have no noise or visual restrictions on where they can go. So, you know, vegetation, landscape around them. So we want to be mindful of what impacts those might have and potentially create regulations to mitigate against some of those visual or noise impacts. We want to take a look at the impacts on wildlife. Those impacts are not currently well understood by the city. We want to identify what fiscal or economic benefits would derive to the city by having BESS facilities sited in Duval. Next slide. We want to make sure that we're partnering with our different public safety professionals because we want to know what local emergency response impacts they might have. We want to coordinate efforts with the Department of Ecology to understand what their guidance is. We have not looked at that in relation to battery energy storage systems or incorporated ecology rules into our code. As said previously, they're from 2007. And we want to look at reports from PSC and other organizations that have been doing work in this area to understand their work in relation to proposed projects in Duval. Next slide. Okay, so how long is the moratorium? Currently through June 2nd, 2027, unless council decides to reduce that time period. What will staff do during that time? We're going to study the issues identified in the ordinance. We're going to consult with government agencies, including but not limited to East Side Fire, Puget Sound Clean Energy Agency, our own police department, King County, both their police department and their emergency responders, the Washington State Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, our electrical utility providers, the Snoqualmie Tribe, the Tulalip Tribe, to study potential impacts of these facilities in Duval. And then we're going to develop recommendations, whether that's policy recommendations or proposed recommendations to the code on whether these systems should be allowed, what conditional uses we might apply, and in what zones throughout the city. And when we do any code amendments or regulation changes, that would come with a public process, including SEPA, to understand how these would impact the health, life, safety, and welfare of our residents. Next slide. And with that, that concludes the kind of foundational presentation before the public hearing.
All right, thank you. Okay, so going through this list, I think first we have Sam Maslin from Eddy Energy. If you'd like to approach the podium.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great to be here. Mayor McHenry, members of the city council. I really appreciate the time to talk to you. My name is Sam Maslin. I'm the CEO of Eddy Energy. Eddy Energy is a developer of community scale distributed energy storage projects and throughout the West Coast. We are working with Puget Sound Energy. We've been selected for a handful of their projects with them through their distributed solar storage program, which is PSC's program to really add a lot of smaller distribution scale assets to support their distribution grids and local communities such as in Duval. We want to talk a little bit about distributed energy storage. We've mentioned some of the larger batteries that connect to the transmission system that really are bigger greenfield assets that support the the statewide transmission grid. The projects that we're developing and others are developing in the distribution category are much smaller projects that are really intended to support the local distribution grid in cities like Duval. These batteries will discharge during peak periods, typically in the evening, when overages and other uses can contribute to actually local reliability problems and outages, among other things. And so these assets are really designed to support the local grid and are developed to fit with local land use. They're much smaller. These projects are typically 10 megawatts and under, which equates to a quarter of an acre to half an acre at most, are sited typically on industrial, previously disturbed land, near critical facilities and close to distribution, PSC distribution infrastructure. Frankly, we understand and support the moratorium that you guys have adopted. Of course, this is a relatively new technology, and for the reasons listed, this community needs to ensure that from a safety, a land use, a visual impact, and otherwise that your code is updated to kind of sort of protect the goals of the city of Duval. I think what we would the main point we would make is just to consider that not all battery energy storage systems are the same. A residential battery, an EV that plugs in, a sort of distributed system such as what we're describing, a larger transmission, kind of big bulk battery, have different footprints, different grid roles, different site considerations. And so we would hope that the ordinance that comes out of this really reflects and recognizes those differences, potentially maps to the projects that are at the distribution level that are really intended to bring electric grid and grid reliability benefits locally versus projects that are much larger, that are connected directly to the transmission system and potentially have, whether it's tiers or different classifications from a ordinance perspective that kind of are appropriate to a 5 megawatt battery, a 500 megawatt battery, and whatnot. So yeah, we really appreciate potential to continue to provide information, work with Duval and in this community and understand what you guys are trying to achieve and definitely support it. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Matt Larson with PSC.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Matt Larson, Local Government Affairs and Public Policy Manager for PSC, and thank you for the opportunity this evening. For over 150 years, PSC has served the region by providing safe and reliable energy for our customers. Due to a variety of factors, including population growth, electrification, and changes to state law, we are now going through the most transformational time in our history. Battery energy storage systems, or BESS, will play a critical role in helping PSC successfully meet this challenge. Demand for electricity is growing. As an example, our future load forecasts show that energy consumption from electric vehicles alone will represent approximately 17% of our total system load by 2045, as compared to just 1.7% today. 840 EVs are currently registered in the city of Duval, representing over 60 megawatt hours of combined stored energy. A 5 megawatt BESS facility storing 20 megawatt hours of energy would help mitigate this growing demand without costly and time-consuming upgrades to the grid. It is worth noting that EV adoption in Duval has increased by 250% in just the past 3 years, and we expect such growth to continue. BESS facilities provide many benefits, including storing energy to help meet peak morning and evening demands instead of buying expensive power on the market. PSE facilities maximize current investments in wind and solar farms by storing excess power produced during low demand and using it during peak demand, power that would otherwise be wasted. Best infrastructure can eliminate the need to build costly new overhead transmission lines by $2 to $3 million per mile. Best facilities can act like a shock absorber, stabilizing the grid from voltage and frequency spikes, helping to avoid power outages. Installing BEST helps employ men and women in the building trades who live here in Duval and throughout our region. And lastly, residential batteries can currently provide backup power for homes during outages, and eventually they and BEST facilities and EVs will do the same for communities. BEST are an important part of PSE's plans to provide the reliable power our customers expect while delivering more of our clean energy required by Washington's aggressive clean energy requirements. By 2030, PSE plans to deploy 1,500 megawatts of energy storage, enough to power 700,000 homes. By the way, megawatt is just another word for millions, so million watt. Safety for our customers, employees, and for our system are paramount to PSE. State and national energy codes and safety regulations for BEST have been developed by first responders, electrical and chemical engineers, and other key subject matter experts in the energy industry, as well as the firefighting industry. In fact, a recent study by the Electrical Power Research Institute showed that the failure rates in BEST facilities since 2018, due to all the new standards and lessons learned, have dropped by 98%. PSE requires any type of BEST facility connecting to our system to meet current stringent and multi-layered safety standards. Lastly, Duval's BEST moratorium provides an opportunity to address community concerns through a thoughtful, thorough, and fact-based review of current BEST technology. We believe that you will find that these systems provide compelling benefits for grid reliability in Duval and that safety has dramatically improved during the past several years. We are hopeful that your deliberations will provide a permitting pathway for residential, commercial, and utility scale BEST so we can continue providing safe, reliable, and clean energy to customers in Duval and throughout our service territory. PSE looks forward to working with you during your deliberations in the coming months. Again, thank you.
Thank you. We're at the end of our list. Is there anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak on BEST? Battery energy storage systems. No, not seeing any. So with that, we will close the public hearing. Thank you all. Next up, we will move on to existing business. And first up, we have proposed amendment to DMC 14.42 on sensitive areas. I'll turn this over to Director Beatty.
Good evening again. Due to the lack of public comments during the public hearing, I would deduce that the public is generally in support of these amendments and doesn't have any objections to them. As such, I hope we can move forward with the amendments as proposed.
Does council have any more discussion on this item? Go ahead, City Administrator.
We should know also that we put together the first draft of the sensitive areas ordinance, took kind of a middle approach. We've since revised them to weigh a little more heavily into the economic benefit or the environmental benefits of the proposed legislation. And the only reason it's not up for discussion and decision tonight is we have a few more days left to hear back from the Snoqualmie tribe and from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, though it's been out to them for a little while.
It's been out for, and generally they are responsive if they don't like something.
Yeah.
So the lack of response so far is a good sign.
And we got comments last time.
Yeah.
So we're presuming that the improved version that we've sent is compatible.
So if council was fine with it, we may possibly put this on consent for an upcoming meeting for that, unless comments come back and you want to have more discussion. We can certainly always pull it if there's a change in heart, but is that, I don't see any objections. I see that not. So, okay, great. We'll move up to our last item of existing business, Title 14 zoning code changes, affordable housing, step housing, again with Director Beatty.
Hello again. We do have a presentation for this one. So this is part 2 of 3 in our deep dive of code amendments for Title 14 to bring us into compliance with the petition for review of our complaint abuse. Next slide, please. So tonight we are discussing the mixed use zoning district, the commercial zoning district, and the POOF zoning district. Next slide. We had previously discussed residential, step housing and parking standards. And at the next hearing, we'll be deep diving into affordable housing. So splitting things up because there's a lot on this plate that needs to be consumed. Next slide, please. So for these consolidations, we are going from quite a handful of zoning districts down to each zoning district having its own chapter, consolidating them into one chapter. This helps make everything shorter, less redundant, less room for error. Next slide, please. So here we have changes where we are keeping some of our existing zoning districts, but we do have mixed use 12 and mixed use institution. That's the word. Being upzoned to mixed use 20 and mixed use 30 respectively. And so these all have density minimums associated with them if there's any component that is a residential development. Not required. It could be a purely commercial development in the commercial zoning district. We're not going to tell someone who's building a new shop in town that they have to have residential apartments above. But they could if they. Next slide, please. We also are modifying the way the house regulations are being done currently by number of stories. That doesn't really work. Generally, it's if we do number of stories, then there's no general control over the mass. We're generally more concerned about mass. So let's just have a height limit and let someone design within that allowance. So with height in mind, currently in this image, on the left is how our current height measurement is done. It's to the eave of a building, not to the overall peak of the building. And then from there, you may have a sloped roof. So as an example, a 612 roof pitch, the light blue portion is where a building could be within that envelope. Other places, so in the middle diagram, this is you take the average existing grade of site, and then you have a horizontal height limit that the building needs to be under. This can result in one side being shorter and one side being much taller. And then in the final image on the right, height, and there's also plenty of other iterations in between, but these are general approaches. You can also have height via slope of an existing site, which then tapers the height limit to the grade. So the code currently doesn't include how, does not include amendments to the method of how we measure height. But this is something where in my professional opinion, I appreciate development following the contours of a site. And that is generally, throughout the planning profession, is something that's agreed upon, which is why it's generally in all of our comp plans and regulations. So my recommendation would be to go for the one on the right. In this way, we could have things that don't peek out or aren't too boxy, and you've got to work with the land. So noodle on this. This isn't part of this code package, but we are hoping to have something come as its own little mini package in the near future, because we do want to make sure this is all addressed holistically. Next slide, please. We do have some amendments to parking. We clarified parking for co-living and step housing, but also took out a lot of the various ratios and made it a lot simpler, a lot shorter, but also indicated a lot of things could be based on a parking demand study. A lot of parking ratios that you find in codes these days are based on studies from the 1950s. And they don't reflect current realities. So letting people document to us why they only need a certain number, because generally people don't want to have more parking than they really need. So why should we make them unless they're reasonable? So give us a reason. And also additional flexibility for affordable housing is in that section of the code. Next slide, please. The Poop zoning district is a consolidation. We have a Parks and Open Space zoning district, and we have a public facilities zoning district. They have slightly different development standards. And there's a lot of regulations that carried over from other like residential zoning districts that apply to public facilities, which may not make sense in a lot of situations. For example, there are still landscape buffers that are required around the perimeter. And if we have a new MOC that we want to build, to have a 10 feet of perimeter when we're adjacent to our own park, it may not make sense to have that as a requirement. So we're proposing a consolidation and some flexibility in those development standards. So that's what's being proposed for this chapter. This has been worked on in coordination with the Public Works Department and City Engineer. So it is effort. And we hope you support both the consolidation and the new name. Next slide, please. And this is just to reshow the draft map showing the proposed zoning changes. So with all of this, we are hoping, next slide, please, that if you could give us feedback by the 17th on any of these proposed amendments so that we can discuss them and work on any tweaks or hold any regulations or answer any questions.
All right, Councilmember Olin.
Thank you. I having attended several housing academies and sessions recently, one of the things I hear over and over is how, related to parking specifically, is how generally speaking, cities should stop writing parking in and they should really relax the zoning rules around parking, and then that, developers are not going to build something with insufficient parking, and making the zoning a lot simpler is going to be better, and it's going to allow things to get through the process faster, and it's going to encourage the right kind of development, affordable, et cetera, et cetera. And the greatest reservation I have about that, and so I guess I just want to kind of put this out there conceptually, is that in a lot of these cases when cities are more aggressively looking to cultivate affordable housing, typically that stuff is being built near transit hubs. And so, it's being done in consideration of that. Since we really still do not have that transit infrastructure, really we're still going to be dependent on cars. And so I worry, even in some of the more recent iterations of this code, having such smaller and smaller ratios of parking spots per unit, it just concerns me. I mean, I don't want Duval to be a parking lot either, but I'm just concerned about having insufficient parking and about reducing it down to not enough, whatever not enough is. And so I want to bear in mind that we really do have insufficient public transportation to support as much population density as some of these plans seem to be preparing for.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
Yeah, my comments were sort of much along the same lines. I had mentioned, I went on a middle housing tour in Spokane, and I know we're not specifically talking about middle housing, but it was sort of led by their head of planning in the city, and there was a lot of commentary, not specifically to middle housing, but in terms of around the broader development standards they have, and very much echoes what Councilmember Olin said, that they pretty much eliminated all their parking requirements, and in the majority of cases, whether it's offsite, whether it's garages, whether it's curbside parking, the developer community has responded to market needs and they've sort of addressed that. Now, that said, Spokane is a much bigger area. It does have a fairly robust public transit system in terms of bus routes, which we don't have here in Duval. But, you know, I think, you know, removing a lot of the friction and the barriers, and relying sort of on market conditions makes sense in the aggregate. I think the one sort of question, and I guess it's more of a question, but I can put it in the form of, and I'm not to put you on the spot, I don't need a response now, but in terms of like, I think there are, when we do a lot of comparisons amongst similar sized cities, we look at some of the things in terms of transit. It would be interesting to know, you know, if there are any like examples where a city has relaxed, you know, what actually gets built, because I think there's what you say versus what you do. And I do think having some minimum standards, acknowledging that we do have transit challenges, maybe that's the right way to put it currently. But I do think at the same time, we should look to, if we are going to have those standards, like the minimal standards to meet those needs, like not, you know, going above and beyond, because I do think there's a certain element of market conditions that will drive that, but we also need to factor in, we don't have, you know, a lot of investment in transit. And even though you didn't say it, Councilmember Rowland, I don't expect that we're going to have a large investment in the near term to expand that. So just again, acknowledgement of the realities of the community. But again, I would not want to be overtly burdensome in terms of the regulations we do put in place.
Councilmember Kozlowski.
Can you go back one slide?
Yes.
Obviously, I'm a lame duck city council member now, but the thing that sticks out to me on this, and just for the rest of the council to think about, is especially on the south end of town, right? That's where we're putting most of the mixed use 30, mixed use 20. And that makes sense because that's open, developable land. That also means though that like some of the other mixed use places have existing properties. There is a couple open plots there, but realistically what that's going to end up meaning is that you're probably going to start to shift where restaurants come into the city to be that part of the city now. And because it's much cheaper for a business to enter into something that's already at code than to come in at Main Street, that's going to be very expensive. And so something that I would push for like the city council to think about going forward is like, should we be doing mixed use 20 and 30 in some of the Main Street area? Obviously, I know what that means, but that also, if you look at the property that's selling, like the grocery store went, expands opportunities there, but realistically, if you don't start to think about shifting there, in 20 years from now, the downtown Duval is going to be the south end of town. Because that's where the apartments, the population density would be. So just something to think about. I would push looking at zoning on Main Street a little bit more. I know we're already doing some, but that's just what sticks out.
If I hear you correctly, maybe up the density allowances for Old Town zoning district?
Yeah, I think that's what I would push for. I know that there's several of these properties that have been for sale in the past or explored. I just know if we don't make it more accessible for any of the transportation lines here, you're going to end up shifting downtown in 20 years from now.
Do other council members want to speak?
So anecdotally about parking, when we talk about flexibility, I have a little story for you. So back when I worked in San Jose, there was a project that was trying to go from the standard 2 parking spaces per unit, which is even for an apartment building was the standard parking ratio, and was proposing to go down to half a parking space per unit. The units weren't very large. They were generally, most of them were 1 bedroom. They were required to provide transit passes to all residents, to have a massive bike locker and bike workshop within the building. And they were located within, it was less than 10-minute walk to a light rail station. And because all of those things were in mind, that's when staff felt comfortable supporting a reduction to their parking. That's an extreme example. We don't have all of that in Duval. But if a site has mixed use and there's going to be businesses open during the day, and then you have your residents who are probably commuting out, then there could be some shared parking between the various uses. That's one way that we can be flexible. Historically, cities require 2 parking spaces per residential unit regardless of the size. And so if you have a bunch of 1-bedroom apartments where maybe it is only 1 person living there, you don't need 2 parking spaces for that 1 unit. So being able to look at that, so that sort of flexibility to consider instead of the standard sort of archaic parking ratios. Those are the sort of things that we would want to work with an applicant on to see how can parking demands be met in an efficient way.
Any other discussion or questions or comments? All right, seeing none. So I remember, what was the last slide again? You want comments by the 17th?
Yes.
Yeah, by the 17th. So then on to us. All right, so with that, we're at the end of our agenda. We do have the good of the order. Is there anything for the good of the order tonight? I'll use it to just end by again reiterating my thanks to the service for Councilmember Kozlowski, Councilmember Schaefer. Just thank you for everything you've done. You've made a big impact and we're better for your service. And I'm sad about you leaving. I get life changes though, and I am very excited for you both on your next chapters. So keep in touch, please. Reach out anytime. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:31. Thanks, everyone.